Hey, what's up guys? Tuki here, back again with another episode of my Carolina Hurricanes franchise mode series right here on NHL 19. The last episode began with some optimism and ended with borderline soul-crushing depression. This episode, there's a little bit of optimism, but I can't help but feel as though it's gonna be a little bit depressing because, yet again, we are on pace to miss the playoffs for what would be the third year in a row. As ridiculous as that is, it is 2023, and there is again a very strong chance that we are going to miss out on the playoffs. We had a plan in place with goaltenders, of course, some of the members of the team. We've improved the team in certain aspects, and it's just not clicking. Unfortunately, we are 12 points out of a playoff spot with 12 games to go, and because of that, we have to take the right route here. It's got to be going down, I don't want to say the smart road, but the right road at the very least, and that is the smart move. So we'll be looking to move on from some players here, unfortunately. But before that, there is one thing that I have forgotten to do way back in the day with Nino Niederreiter, and by that I mean at the beginning of the year. I did not spin the wheel for his no-trade clause. So with Nino Niederreiter's contract, now he was someone who people were thinking, hey, maybe we should move on from him. Yeah, there's a chance that might not be possible because we signed him for $2.5 million, which is a great deal, but by the rules of the series, that makes him eligible for a no-trade clause. Now, it is a 3-year contract. There is a chance it could be a 0, which would be great. So we'll see just how long this lasts for, and then from there, we'll find out just how many teams are going to be on this list. Again, right now we have it between 3 and 25 teams, so we'll do it that way. So let's do this, shall we? Again, Nino Niederreiter's contract, 3 years, so we have a chance for it to be 0, 1, 2, or the full 3 years against a no-trade clause, so it's still movable. But, yeah, and here, you know what, let's just double that up right there. So it's still a movable contract. We'd have to work for it a little bit, but it's possible. Let's see what happens. Are we going to have a little bit of freedom of movement with one Nino Niederreiter? There's a chance this could end up on 0. It's going to be 2 out of the 3 years that we have to stay loyal. And now the fun part. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope, up. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Good Lord. So, how many teams on the no-trade clause, the no-move list? How many teams, Nino? It's going to be a lower number, thankfully. A 10-team no-trade clause for 2 years. So again, that is a very movable contract, which is nice. Again, we'll have 2 years left with a 10-team no-trade clause. So technically, I mean, we could look to move him. We could look to move Justin Falk. Falk has 1 year left on the no-trade clause, and actually, if I'm looking here, looking back at the old rules of the series, I mean, we are allowed to ask someone to waive their no-trade clause, but only 1 year early. So technically, if I wanted to, I could try to move on from Justin Falk this year instead of next year, which would be nice. I mean, granted, then again, it's a no-trade clause, right? So it's just the teams that, the higher-up teams that couldn't move them to. Technically, I can move Falk and Nino. It's not a no-movement clause, it's a no-trade clause, and, the limited no-trade. You get the deal. Unfortunately, having taken a look around with what teams are doing right now and who they have available to us for relatively cheap prices, there isn't a whole hell of a lot we can do. Again, the goals for the season were playoffs or sign a top 6 vet, so we're going to have to sign a top 6 vet at the end of this year. And for Spencer Knight to have a .918 save percentage, or we sign a veteran backup for 2 years, whether or not that's Jimmy Howard. Who knows? Of course, he might retire. The issue right now is that the only real good options to trade for would be a defenseman here on the Philadelphia Flyers, which we could make work, I believe, but that would be a Vahalati, Jyrki Vahalati, who was a first-round pick in 2022, so last year's draft. With Philly, you could argue that they need another defenseman, so perhaps, say we wanted to move on from Bowen Byram, we could do that. Again, with Bowen Byram, easy for me to say, he's the type of guy where he's not going to develop. Unfortunately, they don't need any forward help. Bowen Byram's not the type of guy who's going to develop. However, with the rules of the series, again, I'm not allowed to exploit the fact that his trade value is much higher than it should be. But, you know, trading a defenseman who might still work out for someone with that much value. I mean, I might add like a third, but, you know, to go through with that deal, miss out on a little bit of value, it might be worth it. And then the other player was the biggest name that people caught in the comments, that being one Nathan Mackinnon, who is currently on the Avs trade block. Could we acquire him? Yeah, no doubt in my mind that we could. I mean, he's 27 years old. We already have 3 first-round picks. We have to move one of those anyway. There's no doubt that, you know, getting Nathan Mackinnon would be possible. But, of course, it would rely on us having to move either Svechnikov, Dubois, or Marner. And the most popular choice right now is Marner. And I understand why, because he's making $10 million bucks and isn't over a point a game. Which, I hear you on that. I mean, trust me, I know that contract worries me too. He was the right guy to get when we had to move on from Sebastian Aho. But is he the right guy right now? I have no idea. It's not a fun situation to be in right now with this team. It's really not. It's kind of surprising. Now, again, it's not the most dominant team we've built, but with a top 6 that is that strong, we should be competing for the playoffs. I mean, my God, especially the defense. How are we not? When you have Riley, Hamilton, I mean, Falk and Bean as a second pairing. There have been worse teams to win Stanley Cups, yet here we are, struggling to win. So, I don't necessarily think it's the best idea trading for Mackinnon, because we don't know how much money he's going to ask for. But there are moves that could be made. Not to mention, the Philadelphia Flyers' first-round pick isn't going to be that valuable. Ours is shaping up to be relatively valuable, as is that pick from the Florida Panthers. But Philly on pace to be a playoff team. I think for that reason, we're going to pull the trigger on this deal with the Flyers. We're going to go for this defensive prospect. And with them being a playoff team, you can make the argument that, you know, giving them someone like Bowen Byram. The issue is, we've had Byram for a season and a half now, and there hasn't been significant growth in terms of overall, and that really scares me. The attributes, I mean, he's shaping up to be a decent defensive D-man, but with how much money he might want, it's tough to with the value. There's just not a good. It's just not a good move to be made here. I don't know what to tell you. It sucks. It absolutely sucks that we're having to look at making certain moves here. But we will. Well, I don't even want to make that move. I'd rather keep Byram because I'd again not be able to make the most of that value. I'd rather just see if he develops. So the only question is, do I want to go out and get Nathan Mackinnon? Do I want to go out and get Nathan Mackinnon or trust that Mitch Marner is going to be able to turn it around? That's the question. Otherwise, right now we're screwed, and we really don't have any other moves that we can make until the draft, where, again, we know that we're going to have to trade out some draft picks, and it's going to be a pretty big move to probably try and trade up to get a #1 overall pick. But we also know that the top 6 is going to have to change. Because between Teravainen, Whitfield, and Niederreiter, someone's going to have to go. Nino isn't going to be allowed to be moved, which means we're probably losing Teravainen. Or, as I said, Whitfield will move up to be a top 6 guy, or a top line guy, and Marner will be dealt anyway. So, if we flip Marner to acquire Mackinnon, that might just be a lateral move, because Mackinnon might have to be dealt immediately, which then again, he wouldn't be able to be dealt because we'd have to sign him and he'd get a no-movement clause, which means we would be committing to trading away either Dubois or Svechnikov if Whitfield steps up. You see the mess that we are in right now. It's so bad. It's such a rough situation to be in, to the point where I think we're just going to hold off until the draft. I mean, we are going to get to the draft in this episode. We're going to get there relatively quickly, but I would rather not trade for Nathan Mackinnon right now. I mean, if I could see how much money he was asking for heading into next year, which, you know, in a real life situation, you'd be able to, you know, inquire like, oh, hey, yeah, how much is he thinking heading into next year? I mean, you can make the assumption, considering he's a 92 overall, and I mean, in terms of a point total, he has 57 points in 65 games, so he's on a slightly better pace than Marner, but, you know, without knowing how much he's going to want to make, you know, at the very least, Marner is movable right now. He's not on a no trade. He's not on a no movement because he was still on his RFA years for us. So we're just going to keep the team the same. I wanted to at least give you guys a look into the thought process and a look at pretty much all the options. Again, I checked every team twice over as far as, okay, who has options that we could potentially trade for? And unfortunately, there aren't any good answers here. I mean, our roster is our roster. The only move we could really make is Jordan Staal. He's on an expiring deal. He has a no-movement clause. We could ask him to waive it. There is no point. He makes $6 million. It's going to be impossible to trade him, even with salary cap retention. We wouldn't get that much back. This roster is the roster. They're going down with the ship. And maybe somehow, by some miracle, we turn it around. Julien Gauthier, we talked about potentially moving as well. But with him, he's another guy who has way too much value. I could either just keep Julien Gauthier and hope that we make the playoffs, or trade him for like a third-round pick. And I know what people are saying, oh, the third-round pick. The issue is we already have too many picks. We're keeping the team as is. Some people are mentioning Alex Turcotte. I'm going to keep him down in the AHL for the rest of the season. Hopefully his defense takes a jump up, because he's the type of guy that you don't really want him on the third line. He's a top 6 guy for you, or, you know, you're not going to get the most out of him. Let's sim the rest of this year. It's a brutal situation we find ourselves in. Playoff aspirations, knowing that we are going to miss out yet again. And Allen injures his elbow. He'll be out for 2 weeks immediately after. There is perhaps a chance, and oh my God. Oh boy. All right. Well, let's call up a forward already. There is perhaps a chance. Famous last words. As we immediately deal with 2 injuries to 2 different forwards. And screw it. Turcotte? Nah, I don't want to call him up again. We wouldn't get the most out of him. Do I have a veteran that I can call up? I really don't. That sucks. Well, congratulations then to Friedman. You get to play forward, because at this point, just screw it. I do want to take a look at what other teams did around the deadline, see what other moves happen. And like I said, for now, I mean, unless a miracle happens, it's, you know, full focus on what's going to happen in the offseason. As Chicago traded Duncan Keith, they ended up getting Warren Fogle. Dylan Sikora was moved. David Savard to Washington. Patrick Kane dealt to the Islanders for a first. I did not see Patrick Kane available. Not that I would have been able to trade for him. We don't have room for him, but you get the point. Adam Larson to Buffalo. At least I would guess. So Chicago, wheeling and dealing right now is what we have learned. Well, let's see what happens here down the stretch. We are still 12 points out of the playoffs. We're not going to make it. There's no way. The other teams are just too good. I mean, 31, 28, and 5. I mean, obviously a few more overtime losses would help. Mackinnon's back. We're just going to go best lines because we're going to have to deal with Jordan Staal coming back here in a second anyway. So we'll deal with that bridge when we get to it. Scott Darling is back. We'll just go best lines for the Charlotte Checkers as well. At this point, the prospects that we care about would have gotten playing time throughout the majority of the season, so it's not that big of a deal. But I don't know. Maybe it would have been the right decision to trade for Nathan Mackinnon. But like I mentioned, at least with Mitch Marner, we don't have to stay committed to him. There is nobody on the top line right now that we have to stay committed to between Dubois, Marner, and Svechnikov, which is perfect. But the second we get Nathan Mackinnon, who, you know, the point totals aren't that much better than Marner, and Marner's still, you know, 2 years younger. The second we get Mackinnon and we have to stay loyal to him, that makes things, that makes things a little bit more difficult down the road if we do have to move a top-line guy, which is relatively likely, if you think about it. That's just kind of been the trend for the majority of this, is knowing that, you know, moves are going to be made, and that's more the nature of the season, you know, the season challenges that you guys have been giving me, with like, oh, if this doesn't work, get this dude. Now here's an update. We're only 4 points out. 4 points out with 5 games to go, not 6. I can math well, don't worry. 4 points out with 5 games to go. Philly is Philly slipped up. They are the only team that is yet to punch their ticket to the playoffs. You know Detroit's going to make it over Ottawa, barring a miracle. There is a chance that we could sneak in as the 8th seed. Huh. You know, the dream might not be over yet. There is still hope. We still have life. Mackinnon is now a third-line guy. He wasn't at the start of the year. Zimmer, Allen, Philippe. We'll leave that third line the way it is. And again, I can't help but think Whitfield's going to take that jump up to a top-line guy next year. In which case, I'll probably move on from Marner just because of the money situation. Let's sim to the next day here. We play Columbus. They are a terrible team this year. Philly lost. So we have a game at hand, and we're still just 4 points out. If we can beat the Blue Jackets here, we are looking at a very good scenario. Can we beat Columbus? We have to, and we do. We crush them 7-2. We are just 2 points out of the playoffs. We play Pittsburgh, who are a tremendous team, but even a pity point here would be so helpful. Can we get a point from Pittsburgh? We beat them in a shootout. Let's go. We are currently tied with Philly in points. Now, they do have the tiebreaker, but with 3 games left, we pretty much control our own destiny. We were 12 points out with 20 games to go, and now we are on the brink of making the playoffs. They have one regulation plus overtime win more than we do, 38-37. That is the difference. As long as we win, we could make the playoffs, which would be one of the most ridiculous comebacks I think I've ever seen. Philly lost again. The Carolina Hurricanes are currently in a playoff spot. All we have to do is win. And sure, we'll be going up against New Jersey or Tampa, but I don't care. Anything can happen once you get to the playoffs. And not to mention, we won't have to completely brutalize our top 6. We play Buffalo, then we play Philly and New Jersey. We can do this. Please tell me we're going to beat Buffalo here, who are very far away from being a playoff team. Jordan Staal is at 100%. Did we beat the Sabres? We did, 6-3. Oh my God. This is going to be one of the biggest comebacks I think I've ever seen. Now, I know it was only 12 points, but still, that's a pretty damn big point swing. We are 2 points clear of Philadelphia with 2 games to go, and out of nowhere, if we beat the Flyers here, we are playoff bound. And this will be a playoff episode rather than a draft episode. The Flyers are 3-7 in their last 10. We are 8-1-1. If we win here, we are going to the postseason. That is simply outrageous. Do I want to get Jordan Staal back into the lineup is the question. If I go best lines, it does put Staal back in, which is fine. I'm okay with that. That shouldn't mess with things too much, I would hope. We control our own destiny. This, you know, it's going to be a playoff episode. This is a playoff game right here. If we win, we're in. Let's do this. Can we punch our ticket to the postseason after one hell of a comeback? First period. Oh, boy. Spencer Knight is pulled under 3 minutes into the game, and they get 2 more on Jimmy Howard. Svechnikov scores on Carter Hart. We're down 3-1. Second period, we're down 4-2. Svechnikov scores again, but former Kane Michael Ferland makes it 4-2. Is there a comeback on the books, or is this going to go down to the last game of the season, where if we win, we're nowhere? Yeah, Claude Giroux scores, it's over. Yeah, we end up losing 6-3. Mackinnon gets a late goal, but it wasn't enough. If Spencer Knight is hurt, we're screwed. Bottom line. If Spencer Knight just got injured, then it wasn't meant to be. Spencer Knight with an MCL sprain is out until he's out, and wow. We battle back. We nearly punch our ticket to the playoffs, and Spencer Knight gets hurt in Game 81, and the only way he sees action again this season is if we make it to the final. How do you react to that? What do you say to that? We lose to Philadelphia, and now even if we make the playoffs, we will have to rely on Jimmy Howard or Scott Darling to get the job done. As it stands, the Flyers are back in the playoffs based off of regulation plus overtime wins. We no longer control our own destiny. If I'm not mistaken, we need Philadelphia to lose and we need to win. A massive opportunity goes to waste. Let's do this. We need to win. We need Philly to lose. Otherwise, it will actually end up being a draft episode after all. Jack Hughes and the Devils. First period, 2-0 New Jersey. Point and Nathan Bastian. Second period, Jimmy Howard, I believe, was also hurt. Riley Tufte makes it 3, and the Carolina Hurricanes are going to miss the playoffs. I think we just had goalies get injured in back-to-back games. 4-1 is your final. And the Carolina Hurricanes will be hitting the golf course. We were that close. We were that close. We had it. We controlled our own destiny. And we threw it away. How... What can I possibly say after that? What is there to say? We got so close. And the game just rips it away from us. Absolutely heartbreaking. Goals for this year. Was the offense an issue? We were mid-table somewhere. And then goals against. Jesus, Buffalo was terrible. We were mid-table again, so... We weren't a great team in certain aspects. We weren't a bad team in certain aspects. Again, mid-table somewhere on the power play. And the penalty kill, we were up there for the PK at least. You see the goals against and the goals for. I can't believe that just happened. We were that close. And we get dealt brutal hands in terms of injuries. What else is there to say? Andrei Svechnikov led this team in points, 70 in 82 games, 29 goals. Dubois with a very nice 69 points. Nino with a 65 points at $2.5 million. Steal. Absolute steal. Mitch Marner, 62 points in 75 games. Whitfield with 61 and Teravainen with 59. So, I mean, in the top 6, we didn't have anybody, come close to leading the league in points, but it did pretty well. Secondary scoring was an issue, though. Gauthier, 30 points. Mackinnon, 28. 24 for Staal. Also have to factor in injuries for some of these guys. But, yeah, Max Zimmer was great. 19 points in 41 games. Crazy good. Defensively, I mean, Riley, Hamilton, Falk, and Bean all put up points, so that certainly factors in. And we're all double digits for goals, so that certainly factors in why the bottom 6 would have struggled to put up points. And then goaltending-wise, Spencer Knight failed his goal for the season. He did not finish with a .918. Jimmy Howard was absolutely abysmal, and Darling in his one start was also poor. So we managed to fail both of our goals for the season. And I said 20-some-odd minutes ago, 23, 24 some odd minutes ago, there we go in terms of point production. Sheesh. I said 24 minutes ago or so, go figure, that this episode could be a little bit depressing for me. Boy, was I right. As you get a look there, Sagan, Kucherov finally got the league to start putting up what I call X-Tech-like numbers. I'll take a look at again at the settings that we have going on right now. I don't remember if we still had anything down, but I mean, obviously, the offense was outrageous this season. I mean, Ty Ratty put up 89 points. He's still in Edmonton, so you know he's playing alongside McDavid, but still. Goal-scoring king was Sagan with 63. Matthews, McDavid, Wallstrom, Hughes, and Silvergard all put up at least 50. Ovechkin, Stamkos, and Hall were just shy of that. This was a crazy good season for people in terms of offense. And without a doubt, the highest point totals I've seen or that we've had in any individual season this year. So that's promising, at least, with the settings that we have going on right now, which, again, we can go over in just a moment. I do want to check fights, though. No, wow, very few fights. And Mackinnon actually led the league in fights. Jesus. Very few fights. That's interesting. Defensively, oh, yeah, killed it. Over point a game as a defenseman. That's insane. Carlson, Hedman, Letang, Heiskanen. Guys like Shea, Makar, Dumba up there. Sergachev as well. Fox, Burns, Ulevi, Hughes, and Letang all put up at least 20 goals. Oli Ulevi in Washington now, by the way. And the assist king would have been, and yes, don't worry, I saw Dante Fabro there at the bottom. 33 points. It's nothing crazy, but 17 goals at least. And in terms of goaltending, David Riddick. Jesus. 48 wins and 70 appearances. I am shocked that we have so many, relatively high save percentages despite the goaltending, despite the goal scoring being as high as it is. But Murray and Blackwood, I mean, Murray's going to win the Vezina. They were the two that really led the way. Shesterkin up there, Riddick, Tuukka Rask, and Freddie Anderson. The rookies, we have Kasper Samantieval in Minnesota, who is likely to win that. Caulfield and Savoy also up there in terms of goal scoring. It was Zachariah Grant in Montreal. So there you go. Quick little recap for the season. We will take a look at how the playoffs go down, even though we will very much be on the outside looking in. And again, it's going to be another off season of change as we miss the playoffs by just 2 points. It is Edmonton, Vancouver, Anaheim, Arizona, Dallas, San Jose, Winnipeg, and Chicago in the East. The Lightning and Islanders. You have Detroit and Toronto, since we moved Detroit back to the East. The Devils and Flyers, Penguins, and Capitals. That's nice seeing Detroit back in the Eastern Conference. So, no, well, not back in the Eastern Conference. All right, never mind. We moved somebody. I don't remember if it was in this series or the Finnish series. I think in the Finnish series I moved them back to the West. I think that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe. I don't know. My brain's fried right now out of just soul-crushing depression. I thought we had it. Like, the game just taunts me with, here you go. Here are the playoffs. You're going to make it. So close. Have fun going through the draft, nerd. And indeed, I will have to have fun going through the draft, nerd. Because, yeah, damn, we fell short. Again. And we failed our goals for the season. Again. And we're going to have to make moves at the draft. Again. And maybe we'll have a decent free agent signing again. And maybe we'll end up missing the playoffs for the 4th year in a row. Ugh. Again, for this organization at least. But what a devastating injury that was. Losing Spencer Knight in the penultimate game of the season to the Flyers. Of all teams, that was the point swing that we just couldn't afford to suffer from. As the New Jersey Devils end up winning the Stanley Cup, the Bridgeport Sound Tigers take home the Calder. We'll see how the Devils were able to get it done. Jack Hughes and company. We know he's on the roster at least. I believe Capo ended up in New York as well. Sagan led the way, so obviously the Devils beat the Stars in the final. Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Taylor Hall, Braden Point, Nico Hischier, guys like Riley Tufte, Boqvist as well, and defensively, Severson, Butcher. I mean, I know they have some offensive talent, but come on. The big difference maker there is Mackenzie Blackwood, who was great in the regular season, great in the playoffs as well. The Devils, actually here, we'll take a look at the bracket. That's back-to-back Stanley Cups. We have had the same 2 winners over the past 4 years, and it was a showdown between the two this year as they beat the Stars in 7. So Dallas was looking for their 3rd cup in 4 years, and instead, outside of the Blue Jackets winning it in Season 1, it's been Dallas, Dallas, New Jersey, New Jersey. as the Devils also won the Presidents this year. Sagan won the Art Ross, the Hart went to Kucherov, Norris to Carlson, Hughes wins Lady Byng, Semityval to Calder, Blackwood wins the Conn Smythe, the Vezina to Matt Murray, Jennings as well to Blackwood, Schultz wins the Masterton, the Selke to Ryan O'Reilly for the 4th time in 5 years, Kucherov wins to Ted Lindsay, and Sagan wins the Rocket Richard. Down in the AHL, Evan Barrett put up the most points, league MVP. I don't know Hutzko's first name. Bobby Brink scored the most goals. Dylan Peterson, our own Dylan Peterson, was the best rookie. Best defenseman was Holtz. Top goaltender, Linus Soderstrom. And former Hurricane David Cotton was the MVP of the playoffs. Because if a player leaves our team, rest assured, they will do very well. So the question now is whether or not we'll have any lottery luck, as we have our pick and the Florida Panthers pick within the lottery. We have a decent shot of ending up with the top pick. We know that we have to trade Philly's pick more than likely as well. And 12th and 14th. We just didn't move up. Nothing's really going our way here, is it? Things could be going a little bit better. Alex Ovechkin calls it a career, 839 career goals. Getzlaf finishes with over 1,100 points. It likes some Mikko Koivu. Justin Williams retired as a free agent. Damn shame, but we did what we had to do. Keith Yandel, Bufflin, Mike Green, and Mark Giordano all call it careers. Eric Johnson and Jack Johnson as well. And Roberto Luongo, Jonathan Quick, Corey Crawford, Brian Elliott, Mike Smith, Corey Schneider, and more also call it a day. Broussard and Brian Elliott become scouts. And we will move forward to the draft, listed as potential champions. I disagree. The good thing is we saw development from Knight. I still think there's a really good chance Whitfield becomes a top-line guy heading into next year. You have Mackinnon, Byram. There was finally some development, but still nothing too crazy. You had Dylan Peterson go up to an 81, so obviously a lot of our AHL guys, there's going to be a decent shot of them moving up to the NHL club this year. And in terms of others, Stortini, Christner, Beecher's up to an 80. Prohorkin, actually that was games played, that is my fault. He was up to a 79, but still, you get the point. You get the point. Let's see how this draft goes. I said it was going to be a draft episode or a playoff episode. It's going to be a draft episode. I don't know if we'll go through the full off season because this could take a while. Let's see how it goes down. We know that we need to make a decent trade up here, and preferably it would be with a team that wants to move one of these top picks. Unfortunately, it's not looking like that team exists, and indeed it doesn't. It gets even more difficult for us to try and make moves. All right, Vegas. Vegas. Is there anything I can do to entice you for this to be our one trade up? Again, I know I have goalies that are there. The good thing is you can justify their value based on their age and overall. So if they need a goalie prospect, then hey, we might be able to do something. Byram, we're probably going to keep. I could potentially justify his potential now since there was a little bit of development. We could give up Dumont. I mean, we could give up Marner, but I would prefer not to yet. I mean, we have the ability to wait and see what happens with Whitfield. So I think the big thing here is with Vegas, do you need goaltending prospects? That would be my big... Oh, yes, you do. Oh, boy, don't you? Okay. So we have the ability... I mean, Green has slightly more value. I mean, he's a year older and only one overall point better. But let's take a look here. I know I'm running low on time. Both were pretty good. Peyton Green was a 4th-round pick. Braden Walters was a 2nd-round pick. We got pretty lucky with those guys. So let's say we use Green. And, of course, we'll also have to use a pick here. I have to use two of... Well, not their picks. I have to use 2 of my picks, though, if I'm trading up. Because I'm only allowed 2 picks in 1 round. So we'll use our own pick and Philadelphia's. I'm going to try to balance this and safety net it with their... Actually, do I even... God, I know we're running low on time, but as it is, I have too many seconds. I also have to throw in a third-round pick. I mean, unless I technically trade down once. So say I throw in a third and a fourth, just to balance that out, and then I'm going to try to trade for a pick next year as well. Let's say I use their second and third to safety net this. I mean, that's... Man, that's too much. But we don't really have much to counterbalance it. March or so, and Pat, you're ready. What about the first rounder next year? Hold on, hold on. Don't make that pick. Don't. Will that go through? Rejected. Okay, that's fine. We got time. We got 48 seconds to try and get this done. How about the second and the third? What do you think? Still rejected. What about just the second? Still rejected. What about just the third? I'm giving up 2 picks here and a good goalie prospect for a #1 overall pick. Please tell me this will go through. Oh my god, this might not go through. We don't have a trade. I mean, if you... Wow. Like, do I have anything else to give up here? And if at that point, is it even a smart move? Would it even be a smart move to add anybody else to this? What if I give you a Luke Middlestat? So a good goalie prospect, a good defensive prospect, and 2... We don't have a trade to make. Alright. Well, we tried. We tried desperately with Vegas. I'm going to look around and see if there are any prospects available. Preferably, because again, we have to get rid of a first-round pick. Torrey Krug's not somebody I want at this point. Do they have Artemi Panarin? They do. Damn. That would be nice. Kachevic. The issue is, of course, with Fog of War on, we don't really know how good a lot of these guys are, actually. So we're having to go off of name value. And if they're computer-generated guys, then I'm shit out of luck, unless I check to see where they were drafted. But, yeah, it's not looking good. We might still have to make this trade with Colorado. And hope that they have somebody we could use. We don't need Brady Shea. We don't need Alex Vlasic. Vahalati's still there, but we could get somebody better. I saw Dirksen there, but I don't trust he's actually going to be that good. Let's go talk to Colorado. I know that they're not willing to make the move, but do they need goaltending help? They do. Okay, so we at least have that in to potentially get a #2 pick here. And we'll do the same trick. We'll use... That's the thing. Philly went out early, though, too. Like, we have some good picks to be able to use here. Let's say we use our own 3rd-round pick. We'll use the latest 4th-round pick. And, I mean, that, of course, isn't going to go through on its own. But they do need a goalie prospect as well, and we have the ability to make a move. So let's say we use Green. Actually, who was drafted later? Because we'd have not have to sign them. All right, so yeah, definitely want to use Peyton Green. And I can't help it. I do. Actually, yeah, that's right. I'm only allowed 1 draft pick back per trade anyway. Oh, God. Okay, at least I remembered that rule and I didn't screw up the previous trade. So if this goes through, it goes through. I'm going to take out the 3rd and the 4th right now. Will that go through? 2 first-round picks and an elite goalie prospect for the #2 overall selection. It went through. Absolute no-brainer, they said, but so be it. So we have traded up to get the #2 overall pick. You could argue that it would have made more sense to try and, say, give up another first-round pick in our 1 trade-down option, because, again, we're allowed to trade up once per draft and trade down once per draft. So maybe it would have made more sense to have it be a first, the goalie, and, like, the 3rd and the 4th if that would have gone through. But there's no way to say for sure. At the very least, we have, and again, we gave up 2 first-round picks to move up, and we gave up a really good goalie prospect, but we still have a good goalie prospect, and Spencer Knight's going to be our guy for the future anyway. We may have given up a little bit too much, but I'm still okay with it. And now in terms of trading down, we're only going to have to move like a 3rd and a 4th to move down next year, although we're only allowed 7 picks, so hold on. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold on. That's 4, 5, 6, and 7. So, oof. I know we're on the clock, but if I can sort this out now, I want to. So, again, we have our 4, 5, 6, and 7 with our highest 4th. So I need to move these picks and get picks for next year. Anaheim's interested. Are they willing to move picks next year? Yes, they are. A first-round pick is going to be out of the question, but if we can get Anaheim's second-round pick next year, I think that's a decent little return. Of course, we're only allowed one pick back. There might be a team with a prospect where it's worth kind of exploring, if it's worth going through, but for now, let's just take that deal if they'll do it, and there we go. So, our moves have been made, our one trade up and our one trade down. We trade up to get the number 2 overall pick from the Colorado Avalanche. We trade down to get a second-round pick next year. These are the 7 selections we'll make. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a 4th-round pick. Let's make the most of it, I hope. Of course, we'll be calling a timeout here for sure, because that's the only way to do it. So there we go. Your new moves would be made. And the good thing is we still have the likes of Mitch Marner that we can look to move later on in the offseason if need be. So these are the players available. Of course, we'll pick somebody from the top 5. Dennis Rokon, we know absolutely nothing about somehow. But he had 43 goals, 46 assists. DeAndre Sawatsky, 40 goals, 56 assists. Nearly straight A's. Solani comparison. We have Igor Kuleshov, who played in the KHL, 20 points in 53 games. Straight A's, Michel Goulet comparison. And Chad Shepard, 43 goals, 52 assists. Nearly straight A's with the exception of the defense. Lucic comparison. So yeah, you know he's going to be a power forward. So we have 2 snipers and a power forward and a complete unknown in Dennis Rokon. 89 points, though. Doesn't take a ton of penalties. And, of course, in terms of like hits and block shots, it doesn't track that at all. No real penalty minutes for anybody, even the power forward. It's tough to say because I don't know if there's a wrong pick to make here. It's going to be a winger that we take. It's just, do we go off of central scouting? I mean, because either our scouts have Shepard at 2 or Rokon at 2. And it just kind of sucks that we don't have any info on Rokon. I mean, 96 points for Sawatsky is ridiculous. Difference is, too, he's only 17. As is Shepard, who had 95. We have to make the right choice here. Rokon, I think I'm ruling out Kuleshov. Even though he has, you know, he's the only one with straight A's. I mean, technically, Kuleshov has the best letter grades of the group. But with Sawatsky and Shepard, I mean, you know, they're at least younger. I mean, granted, they'll be turning 18 soon, though. That A+ shooting for Sawatsky, all 3 of them have A+ shooting. Or we take the mystery box with Rokon. Because we have no idea how good he is. That's a tough one. You know what? Let's have a little fun. Let's go with the mystery box. We're going to take the Canadian left winger from the Kingston Frontenacs, Dennis Rokon. We're not going to know how good you are and whether or not that was a drastic mistake for a while. But he is the guy to take with Aiden Walensky off the board. He is listed as a depth forward. So that could have been a mistake. Sawatsky, listed as a minor league scorer. Okay. We're still looking all right. Kuleshov. Okay, I think we're all right. Unless that power forward ends up being something else. Yeah, we did well. We did well. At the very least, based off a player role, we took the right guy. That means Rokon's going to be similar to that 82 overall guy that we had, whose name's escaping me right now. But he's going to be really good offensively, but the defense and physicality is weak enough that he's not listed as a third-line guy. So overall with Rokon, I like the pick up there. That's a pretty good option for us. And we'll see who we have available here with the 12th overall pick as well. I don't believe you. And the issue is, of course, if we take another left wing here, that puts us into a rough situation down the road. Levasseur, if I had to guess, he's going to be like a medium elite grinder. A+ shooting, though. Theo Fleury comparison. Let's take a look at Steven Neilson. I mean, decent point totals, but we don't know enough about him. Ville Akuta, the Kara. Probably going to be a legit defensive D-man. Don't have too much to go off of. 40 oh yeah, with the penalty minutes like that, he's definitely a defensive D-man. Mikko Allen, 16 points. Looking pretty good. Vlasic comparison. Again, medium top 4 is not my favorite potential this year. Eric Bradley, 57 assists. And, I mean, again, though, I don't think we can go for a left wing. And Ahmad Kidd. What about Valentenko? Rick Nash comparison. Didn't do that well on the K, though. So, I think just out of necessity, it's either we go for Neilson or Kuda. I'd rather go with Kuda over Allen. Even though we know more about Allen, it's the mystery box factor with Kuda. So we either take the slightly undersized center in Steven Neilson, or we take the 6'2 defenseman. You know what? I feel like the mystery box worked out for us once before. It's going to hopefully work out again. We're taking Neilson from the Ottawa 67s as our second pick. Again, we're not going to know much about him. He is listed as an other forward. Of course, the point totals were pretty nice, though. And that's a decent start to help bolster up the offensive depth, which is going to take a little bit of a hit heading into next season because we're going to have to move on from certain players. So we move on to the next round. And, okay, there are right wings and defensemen available. No goaltenders. So we're looking at either Ivan Grabeshkov, who had 3 points in the KHL. Nothing ridiculous there, but an Eric Staal comparison. Emmanuel Denis Pepin, the 18-year-old, decent totals, but nothing great. Kuznetsov comparison. The defenseman, Gabriel Parker, 28 points, no comparison. And we have Kalle Sontag, the Zontag, who did not put up very good points. Oh, boy. So, in terms of points, we don't have much to go off of. Parker, it's not looking great because of the penalty minutes. Zontag, I mean, it's also kind of not looking good because of the penalty minutes, and also the point totals weren't there. So we'll probably go for a winger. And, I mean, we know a little bit more about Denis Pepin. And at least off of the point totals, he was a bit more impressive. So, again, I'm not allowed to scroll down. I'm not allowed to sort by potential. Just to avoid being able to take advantage. Because, again, as we've talked about before, and if you watch this series the full way through, you know, I mean, anybody can sit there and be like, yep, taking Delmore. I don't want to do it that way. It's supposed to be a challenge, of course, which is why we've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. Although I might not be wrong a year from now. We're taking Denis Pepin. So the forward core is looking a little bit better. Pepin listed as another forward as well. So we'll be looking at defense, goaltending, and a mystery box pick. We'll see what we end up with here. And there's the goaltender that we're taking. I don't even know how good he's going to be, but there's no doubt in my mind that's who we're taking. If there's a goalie listed this early, it's a good sign. Ivan Mackinnon, the 18-year-old Corey Crawford comparison. He's slightly undersized, but there's no doubt he is our goaltender pick. And we'll find out down the road just how good he actually is. So we move to the third round. I'm not allowed to make another trade. We actually have back-to-back picks, which is pretty nice, but could come back to haunt us. The good thing is, though, there are 2 defensemen available. But is there anybody who could tempt me into making the mystery box pick now? Carl Ruedl's not bad. Markstrom was looking promising, but we can't guarantee the potential. We have Ola Raquel, can't guarantee it, and Gregor. Yeah, there's no one there to tempt me. It's probably going to end up being Skylar Russo and Tyrväinen. So let's take Russo off the board, I think. Yeah, let's go for Russo first. That'll be our first defensive pick of the draft, and then unless another defenseman popped up, Tyrväinen's probably the guy. It's Smeed, who's not looking that great. In terms of previous reports, Smeed's there, and our scout ranking has Tyrväinen. Okay, so Hannu Tyrväinen is going to be the next pick, and our final pick, which will be in the 4th round, we can choose whoever the hell we want, the best player available. Let's see what we can do. Oh, God. So, I mean, Fucale is listed as a bust, so I'm going to trust that. So it comes down to Sigalet, Brooks, Purcell, or Davison. Stanley Sigalet, love the alliteration. Point total was okay. Ken Brooks is an overager, so I'd prefer to avoid that. Less development time. Purcell is also an overager, nothing too crazy. And Davison didn't play much, but when he did, good lord. So when in doubt, take the goaltender in terms of potential trade value. And that'll do it for this draft. So it's highlighted by the, decision to trade up to the number 2 overall selection, where we end up with Rokon. And overall, I feel like it went well. Again, you could debate whether or not the other first-round pick should have been used to trade down. And we gave up a goaltending prospect to move up, but we end up with 2 goaltenders in this draft who could end up with pretty high potentials. So I'm fairly happy with how that draft went, despite the fact that Fog of War is on, and there's not much I can do to see for a fact right now if those were good decisions or not. Now, unfortunately, because of the playoff scare, things went, the episode's gone long. Things took a little bit longer than I would have expected. Now, Jimmy Howard hasn't retired, so I will live up to my end of the bargain. We will be signing him for 2 years, hopefully at $1.3 million. We'll probably drop Darling, but that way I know what the deal is. And of course, we also need to acquire a top 6 veteran. So more than likely, say goodbye to Teuvo Teravainen. And there is a decent chance, again, heading into the next offseason, that Whitfield could take that step up. Or we could preemptively say Whitfield's probably going to take the step up, and we look to move on from Teravainen and Marner in this offseason. And as a result, we could bring in prospects, or we could bring in, defensive help really isn't even necessary. Defensive help, we could move Marner, Teravainen, and Jake Bean and go out, although technically Justin Falk's no trade clause just expired. So we do have freedom to move Justin Falk. I guess what I'm throwing out there is maybe we use Mitch Marner to go out and get another top 2 defenseman to play alongside Morgan Riley. That is also an option. We will figure all this out in the next episode, though. I hope you enjoyed this one. The heartbreak of not making the playoffs. And then overall, at least I feel like it ended on a relatively high note with the draft. But we'll see. More changes coming before we begin next season. That is for sure. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like on the video. I will front kick you into the Sparta pit. Until next time, have a good one. Take it easy. I'll see you then.